Welcome to Life of a Mobile Span. I'm going to tell you a story today. My name is Hanson Ho. I work for a company called Embrace. We do mobile and web user-focused observability. Yeah, that exists up there. I use he, him pronouns, Chinese-looking guy, black glasses. So yeah, like I said, I was going to tell you a story today. It's a story about her. Her name is Molly, everyone. And Molly is a span. But she's just a bit different than some of the spans you might have encountered previously. A little different from Spanley right there, who some of you might have met back in the summer in Colorado in a presentation called The Life of a Span, which inspired this. Yuri and Jamie from Olive Garden and Honeycomb, respectively, talked about and taught us to appreciate Spanley as not only an open telemetry span, but as a person, asterisk. Now, Spanley is what you would expect him to be. He's a span. He's got a name, he's got a trace ID, span ID, all that. And he is born with a purpose. To model service execution, of course. What else would you use span for? Spanley is defined by some basic facts. Things like start, end, various attributes along the way. His life is broken up into stages, or you might know them as child spans. And he makes memories throughout his lifetime, events. And his life is enriched by friendships with other people, or other spans at least. There are calls to other services. And when he passes, his legacy, all that he is sent over to the collector. And from that, the collector publishes a memoir of Spanley. What's a visualization of a distributed trace? Like one you see here. Y'all familiar with it? Spanley lasted a second and a half, got a bunch of spans. You've seen this, you know this. Spanley is the memories and friends he made along the way. And that got me thinking, what if Spanley's circumstances were different? What if he grew up elsewhere? And that's when I thought of her. That's when I thought of Molly. Before I get more into the story of Molly, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Spanley so you can appreciate the differences between her and Spanley. Again, Spanley, right here. Good guy, solid, knows what he's doing, wears a suit. Like all the other spans, he is from the metropolis of DC, the data center. DC are the big times. DC is where you have the latest technology. It's where you have the latest and fastest phones. And all spans there share a purpose. They model service execution. Life in DC is fast. Everybody wants to be done as soon as possible. So spans there are short. Shorter the better. Better performance, right? Who wants a long span? There are many things to do and friends to meet in DC because it's so big. So there's lots of opportunities to capture data. Phones there are high-end. Spanley's phone is super fast. That's why instrumentation overhead is effectively negligible to an extent. There's 5G service in Metropolis, or not Metropolis, in DC, and there's reliable public transit. So getting around is easy. The network is fast and reliable, and if you're on the network, it's basically there. Don't gotta worry about it. Publishers, when they receive all this data, this bevy of data that just gets put on the network, well, they have to edit that down because it's just a lot. That's tail sampling. And Spanley's memoir will be a hit when it's published because it is what readers expect. You see that span, you see that trace, you're like, oh, I get it, I know what to look for. And they do, and it'll be great. But not Molly's. No. Molly's span is wild. because she is from mobile. So let's talk about this place called mobile. It's a new frontier for observability. Folks like Molly, they're coming. But mobile is far, far away, both geographically and metaphorically. It is as far away from DC as you can think of. Life is slow in mobile and long. And that's because things just aren't as quick. People don't need to get anywhere very quickly. So long spans are expected and okay. There also isn't much to do. You rely on the OS to tell you stuff, and the OS says, nah, you're just an app process. Sorry. So there's not a lot of stuff to instrument, even if you want to. And you add to that the fact the phones they use. Spanley uses fast phones, not Molly. Molly's phones are old and slow, which means every time she tries to take a picture, it takes forever. And also, there's not much space on that device, so she can't really capture a ton of stuff. She has to be super careful. Not only that, phones in mobile are shared. Molly doesn't have her own phone. She shares it with her sister, Kari, and her brother, Webby. They don't have their own device. That's why they can never always instrument when they want to. And because of the 2G cell service that they just got last year, the network is unreliable. The bandwidth is low. They have to save the things on their phone, and they go home and they upload it. It is not ideal, but it's growing. Spans, they're popping up everywhere in mobile. It's because there are interesting things happening in mobile. And to many of people's surprise, there are spans there. Spans like Molly. And their purpose? Well, it's not to model service execution, because apps aren't services. So tons of boring time during an app process. And you don't want to know all that stuff. No. Spans in mobile model interesting things around town. Things that are of note. It's quiet, but when it's not, it's really not quiet. Like specific app workflows. Network requests from the client side, encoding of something, it takes a long time. Perhaps a user using an app for something. And the memoirs that get published from mobile spans are fairly niche. They are unrecognizable if you're used to using or looking at spans like Spanley's. SREs just can't really make much of it. Why are you capturing this information, they say? 4 reasons. Oh, sorry. Did I mention there are aliens in mobile? Oh yeah, there are aliens. You got these guys here. The OS and the end user. They are what makes mobile interesting. They control things behind the scenes. It's not just a service executing. No. Puppet masters from beyond, making things happen. Making things like user app workflows, triggered by them. And aliens don't just trigger workflows. They take spans away because they love spans. They love their vibe. And they do it without warning sometimes. And data could be lost if your process just goes because the aliens took them. Well, mobile spans actually want to be taken, so this is not like an abduction thing. Their purpose is to represent users. It's their higher purpose, or at least they consider themselves to be that. But really, it's a problem for would-be memoir writers. Memoir writers like Molly. She wants to be with the aliens, but she also wants to have her legacy published and known. The dilemma she has. So the treacherousness of mobile notwithstanding, it's not impossible to do spans, for spans to have memoirs published. It's just tricky because it's a little violent out there. It's hard to publish a memoir in mobile because the data, who knows where they are? But Molly, she is resourceful. Molly has workarounds. Molly records memories selectively. A lot of interesting things she sees, but she has to be careful what she actually takes down. You only instrument what's necessary. Now, that might be a little bit, boring, but she can also collect physical mementos, things that she doesn't have to do herself. Concert posters, buttons, things that are just around she can just grab and associate herself with to enrich her life, her story. Metadata is great for that, for additional context, and you don't have to have it right away. And you have to delete ruthlessly. If you're filling up and there might be interesting things coming down the block, you have to delete. And that's what Molly does. She deletes, deletes, deletes. Back pressure has to be handled in a prioritized way, or else you get the boring stuff. You want the good stuff. And Molly utilizes backups frequently. When she records a video, goes home, and posts it, that's great. But sometimes Kari just grabs that phone and deletes all the stuff, and she goes, "Where's my stuff?" Well, it's on this USB thumb drive here. You have to assume things are not safe until it's fully delivered. And man, there are so many things that are not fully delivered. You gotta use that backup. And when she doesn't have her phone, she uses a notebook. She jots down partial memories in the notebook so she could record it later when she has the phone, or just add hints of what happened. Not the most ideal, but sometimes you're just too busy, or you don't have your phone. She also sends documents via courier, because couriers can retry routes if they don't work the first time. They can bundle things in a way that is atomic. You're not gonna get partial broken data waiting, because in mobile, who knows when gets where at what time. Couriers are smart about this. Batch and retry smartly, assuming failure. But the most important thing, perhaps, is that she and her friends have this system whereby they check in on each other. And if if they don't hear back from each other after a certain time, they assume they're off with the aliens. So what they do is they take all the backups and they send it to the publisher so something of them remains. Tombstones are great, not only for memorializing, for keeping track of stuff that you want to send later. So these workarounds sound expensive, and they are. Molly spends half her life thinking about these workarounds. But without them, everything could be lost. The ultimate failure. And she's not gonna let that happen. The payoff. Molly's day finally arrived after seconds, minutes, hours, days, who knows what it is. It has finally come, and her memoir is published. Front page. Molly's life, look at her, resplendent, hang out with Idris Elba. Let's take a look at what it looks like, eh? Well, it's over 2 minutes long to start with. I can't fit everything in here. It's got no child spans. What? Huh? It's got many events, though, lots of events. And a lot of state changes. Wait, what's a state? But it ended successfully. Molly did not have to be resurrected via memory. She passed on successfully. She ended well. And she found her purpose. Not to model some service execution, but to represent a hand of online poker. Apparently it ended well, so that's great for some alien that's controlling it. The aliens didn't take her. She was allowed to end successfully. Her backup plan? Not necessary, turns out. Oh, but other mobile spans were not so lucky. Her friend, Crashy? Let's just say it ended violently. Bad time to be Crashy. But Molly went to Crashy's place, picked up his stuff, sent it to the publisher, and boom, life of Crashy. You don't really know what happened at the end, but you have a pretty good idea. All thanks to tombstones. Now, takeaways. What do we have here? What did we learn? Well, we learned to open our minds up to OTel, and OTel spans being outside the DC. Not all spans look alike. Some spans can conform to OTLP, but actually represent very different things. And it is okay. Some spans are long. Some spans don't model service execution. And some spans can just vanish without a trace. We also learned about her, didn't we? We learned about Molly. Molly's just built different. She's got that dog in her. Because she speaks for aliens. Oh yes, aliens control everything. And Molly speaks for her, or speaks for them. Well, she speaks for users. But we're gonna call them aliens because that's a cooler sounding name. And she does it by being user intentions and outcomes, representing that. Not just a service executing in the cloud that eventually contributes to some user doing something. No, directly. The beginning is an intent, and the end is an outcome. If it succeeds, great. If it doesn't, that's actually really good to know too. Molly, by being herself, her friends and her can unlock user-focused observability. What is user-focused observability? Well, it's just Molly changing the game. But that's not for today. That's for next Observability Day, if I get the chance. Or you can just check out Embrace's website. And that's it. Thank you very much. Questions? Well, I mean, you have 5 hours? You don't. So I think a lot of it has to do with the perspective of the data. So folks are used to having fairly homogeneous environments where they aggregate and there's a deviation from some norm, and oh yeah, that's bad. Well, on mobile, everything is heterogeneous. Not only the devices themselves, which number in the thousands, but how much they are used, how they're used, whether you're walking into an elevator shaft, whether you're low bandwidth, whether you're being throttled, your CPU, or whether you're using one of the lower level, the crappier cores of the phone. There is no standard. And if you want to get P75 memory usage, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna give you very much information. So user-centric observability, user-focused observability is more about how do we know whether the user is successful in doing what they're doing. If they want to start the app up, did they actually start the app up, or was it so slow that they had to kill it in the middle? Things like that. So you abstract the machine away and you look at the user. You basically say, did they do the thing or not? And everything else explains why they did or did not. That's the idea, at least.
Okay, so just to further clarify, and I'm sorry if anyone else has a question, but it's like redirecting the focus from more of the hardware metrics to actually what are the user actions, and then from the user actions you can infer what the quality of the state of different environments is.
Yeah, so in the back end, you're trying to figure out how P75 latency affects the end user. Well, on mobile phones, why not just measure what the end user is doing? It's a bit of a shortcut. It's a bit of problem identification rather than problem root cause finding. But on mobile, you can actually reproduce stuff on one phone. You don't have to set up this distributed system. So getting enough information to say, hey, there is a problem in this very niche segment and then some clues. That's a lot. Let's go, Dan.
What happens to Molly? What are some of the challenges that happen to Molly when she goes and takes a nap and goes in the background?
So you have to be. Oh, when Molly takes a nap, or the alien specifically takes a nap, and Molly is just standing there, doing nothing. What are the challenges around that? Is that roughly background stuff? It depends if your app cares about that. Some people think that when you background the app, the session's over, you don't worry about it. But what if you're doing some encoding? What if you're doing something that's in the background? You kind of have to know what the process is doing. And at least for Android, I'm sure it's the same for iOS, your process gets a lot less CPU share from the scheduler when you're in the background. And you can tell that if you look at a very deep trace, which is not really available at runtime because it's very private information. But if you run like a tool like Perfetto, you can get all that information. And it would be really great if you can actually get that data. And Google is starting to have an API that allows you to get some aspect of the profile from Perfetto. But the data is voluminous. A second is a megabyte. It's untenable and it's unparsable on the client side with most phones, I should say, at least. So you have to decide at that point, should Molly stop when it goes in the background? And if Molly shouldn't stop when she goes in the background, you have to actually contextualize. Oh, it went to the background. That's why things are so slow. So that's why context is so important. It's the key. Your hand up.
First of all, thank you for this entertaining narrative of it. You briefly mentioned either OpenTelemetry or OTLP. Curious on your thoughts on what role, if any, OTel plays in this world of sort of Molly spans.
The question is what role OTel plays on Molly. I mean, Molly spans. So the company I work for, Embrace, we are user-focused, mobile, web, and we're built on OpenTelemetry. That is the lingua franca of observability as far as I'm concerned. To be able to talk in the same language, or at least the same syntax and the same characters. Language is more like semantic conventions. So is it verbose? Yes. Does it work? It does. So it is the English of telemetry for me. So the role is, how do we make it work better? Do we invent new words? Do we translate? And I have 0 minutes. One last question. Is that like a 49 seconds? Okay, one more question.
Real quick question. Why does Molly not have child spans?
Molly can have child spans, but what do you do with that? Like, what are you trying to achieve with the child span? So I'm not saying mobile observability don't need child spans. There are many things that can be child spans. But for a example, it's more dramatic to say there are no child spans. But they're useful. But the fact that you have to individually create IDs for it, the fact that it's another entity on its own that's addressable without the parent, the fact that it could actually arrive before and also never arrive, means that you have to kind of manage the existence of Molly and her children, if they exist. So that is a bit of a trick bag. And if it's all on Molly, then you don't really have to worry about that. But there are ways to actually manage that too, so. All right, I think that's it. Come find me. I'm yellow.